making another video here to try to help other people out of our very bad experience the past 8 years. You know, moving in and around Saginaw County. There's been blessings. You know, only God can turn a curse into a blessing. And He's given us blessings. But the time for something to be done is now. Everything I do, somebody tries to sabotage it, and people retaliate if I complain, you know, for doing something unethical or ignoring something, you know, that I've brought up or that I've asked, or you know, requesting information about a program or about an alternative to something. It's just nonstop. You know, and a lot of the people that mess with us, I mean, it's interesting the way that we're targeted, because somebody's recommending African Americans to move around us everywhere we go, and they get paid on debit cards, or somebody will help pay for their rent, or they'll let them use their apartment. There's all kinds of things that we've found out that go on to do this. You know, people with apartment shares say, hey, you can stay there for 2 weeks. And the people that immediately live around us, whether they're there or not, the networks always are. That's the telltale sign, you know. When there's a network, an SSID that's broadcasting from an empty apartment, you know something's going on. Because per the lease of the complex we live in, they don't provide internet. It's so people can hack us and screw with us. And, you know, when I made a few videos about this, all of a sudden, most people erase the names of their SSIDs. It's still telltale. And from what we know from a CPS investigator and from my attorney for a misdemeanor, a complaint that I made that they said wasn't true, it was police retaliation. And it was dismissed. I had to, anyway, it was dismissed because there was no evidence, and I had a counter complaint as well that I already said that I would say it in court, even if they refused to take action on it. So they said, go see a counselor, and we'll cancel this. I said, how about I become a peer support specialist, or not a peer support specialist, peer support listener, a counselor, you know, like at a hotline. And at the same time, I'll have a peer group where we counsel each other. And they're like, okay, deal. So, you know, I work on that when my health is okay, because all the retaliation and all the nonsense and all the medical providers ignoring issues for 8 years, my health is not good. My spirit is very strong. I still have a lot of piss and vinegar, and I fight back, and I speak up for people who are stepped on, and I fight for my family, what little of it's left, especially my kids. But I'm limited because people keep messing with us financially. Everything I do gets messed with. Every opportunity, something will happen to sabotage it. Every opportunity. And then places like MDHHS will withhold programs from us or just deny others. You know, even when I say, well, this says right here we should be accepted, they won't talk about it. They'll say, no, we're denying because this. I said, well, this, and this says we should be accepted. They won't reply. Yeah, and I blame some of the places that have given us poor help, they help a little bit to look good, but with the major things, they screw it up, or they ignore us, or people in their agency will retaliate. And their answer to fixing things is firing people. Don't hold people accountable. Well, in the world of government, when you fire somebody, that's not to hold them accountable. That's to hide accountability. You fire them, they disappear. Especially when people are being allowed to work with different agencies, especially veteran agencies, under assumed names. But I got to keep this focus to try to help people. The things that have happened to my family, in a normal situation, these people would be held guilty for human rights crimes and for civil rights crimes, but not against us. The VA, even the officers there, the higher ups, the VA police officers, refuse to investigate what's happened to me, but yet they will follow us around, escort us, or stand outside of a room, where I have a console or something, to humiliate me. That's all it is. I said, look into my background compared to some of these employees. They don't. Some of these employees are supposed to already be vetted by OPM. But when I dig into their background, what I know about OPM, my first year in the military before I joined Force Protection, actually my first 2 years, I did HR type stuff. And we worked very closely with OPM investigators. People used to come and get records and ask for copies and ask for, this information, that information, where to get it, stuff like that. So we saw them quite regularly, had lots of conversation, and got an idea of what they'll accept. Also, being a former subcontractor, I know what they'll accept. And some of these people who are hired, their sketchy backgrounds, their educational credentials that are very suspect, and their licensing that they seem to have cleverly, played games with various state statutes to get licensed. But when I dig into their background, I find all kinds of sketchy, all kinds. VA police don't listen to me. Nobody does. But if we raise our voice, they're right there. I've broken no laws. I'm not a criminal. I don't go out to hurt people or to argue with people or to spread hate and animosity. I don't participate in crime. I don't have tickets or citations. I don't do hate activity. I don't do criminal activity. I don't do stuff that's sketchy on the internet. I don't do hate or illegal activity on the internet. I'm not involved in any kind of crime, drugs, theft, trafficking, sexual crimes, nothing. I don't even make, outwardly aggressive political statements. Nothing. But people do this to us. And like I said, Constellus has never replied to me. When I sent that letter to them, they've never replied 5 years ago. And I know some of the former employees are here right now. Are they participating or not? I don't know. But somewhere, somebody has a lot of money to spend on targeting people, especially people who have been vocal against the company and holding them accountable for things that have happened, and to stay true to their commitment to justice in contracting. It used to be that a patriot wasn't somebody that was there just for greed. It was somebody there, they make a little money, they don't get rich. In my area, force protection, you make just as much as a social worker does, at the 10th level. State of Michigan, 10th level social worker, we make the same that they do. And our supervisors, they make, up to, I think the state goes to 12 or 13 or 14. So you don't go there to get rich. Project managers do very well. Everybody else, you earn a good living. But there's people that are there because they're patriots. Maybe they can't serve in uniform anymore, getting old, got bad health, whatever. So they put them in something they can do. And their talent and their expertise is utilized. Because some people have geared all their education, all their experience towards one or two fields. So if they leave the military, they can adjust their field slightly, but not a lot. Slightly. That's what I've done. Adjusted my field slightly. Been in force protection for 5, 6, 7 years. Military and civilian. Then if you add all of my graduate degrees, you're looking at 11 years, almost 11 years in force protection. But so people can't, change their field quickly. And, I wonder if people from the company retaliated about my complaints and such. I always wonder. The company's doing better. They've fired those people that were on the fence about ethics, and they've increased our portfolio, so now it's a multi-billion-dollar company. So I think they're doing great. And they're the only company that offers a retirement for defense contractors. Kidnap and ransom special operations groups, VIP details, PSD, VIP, PSD is the same thing. And force protection and embassy security. They're the only ones that offer retirement. Nobody else does. And it's also employee owned. But I don't know, but I don't blame them for everything. It's pretty apparent, somebody has an axe to grind with me. Some people. Have I been Me Too'd? No. I've said that again and again. No. This is, I don't know what's going on, other than I know we've encountered some human traffickers, and some of my exes were targeted by traffickers, because there's a lot of them in the Philippines. I've encountered some in the Philippines. I think that's part of this. And they happen to have a lot of money and a lot of political clout, and they're great with social media to manipulate. And then you have some who are involved in QAnon and Anonymous that protect the information side of people like this. Remember, Backpage.com is still existing. It still exists, only on overseas servers. There's people that protect people like this. And protect pedophiles. There's people that protect servers. They have them in their house. They're armed in various countries overseas, and they protect these servers. No, I don't believe in the cabal, but I believe there's some very sick people. And we have encountered a lot of predators in a lot of fields: medicine, social work, law enforcement. We've encountered a lot of predators, not sexual predators per se, people with a predatory personality. They don't have any empathy. They only care about what they're gaining, and they don't care who they step on to gain. We've encountered a lot. Matter of fact, it's gotten worse the past 3 years. Everybody's making profit in some way or another from my daughter and I's presence on their roster, on their program, or living complex, but we don't. We live in utter poverty, and it teaches you how to budget. But there's a point as a parent you don't want your child to experience that. No good parent does. But anyway, the focus on this was to try to help some other people dealing with the VA and the Saginaw VA. Covenant's got a lot of great people that work there. I've had some good experiences there, but I've also experienced some really bad leadership amongst physicians, amongst their number twos in command, which is their scribes or their nurse or their PA assistant, from the administration, patient advocate. Yeah, there's a lot of bad people in those areas. And there's a lot of Covenant physicians at the VA in Saginaw. I would say probably at least half to 3/4 are physicians and nurses are connected to Covenant. Generally, a lot of the contractors that come and go, they aren't even live around here. Their contract and the work they do is virtual. And that's one of the ways that people can get away with a lot is by subcontracting from the VA. They're all veteran owned. Most of them, not all. That doesn't mean that, their employees are good people. They hire these people on the internet, that some of them could be bad people. Do they pass a couple of clicks? Click this, okay. Yep, I checked it. There's nothing there bad. You're hired. That's how it goes. And they get away with a lot when you're a subcontractor. You're talking about anywhere from 3 to 6 branches away from the main tree of the agency. You get away with a lot more background-wise. And that's what they do. They hire these people. And, I'm not saying they're all bad. I'm just saying that the bad ones, that's how they get away with it. And there's also a lot of direct appointee VA folks, doctors, nurses, PAs, and LPNs that do distance work when the VA needs help. They'll log in and do stuff from a distance. It's on a contract basis, but all kinds of ways that they help. The VA gets help when it's even, when they're short-staffed or when everybody's gone home. But we've gotten a lot of retaliation there, and everybody gets away with, with the disruptive behavior reporting system, weaponizing it against me. And they have their meetings. I'm not invited. We have 4 or 5 different reports from doctors saying that I was verbally aggressive and I argued and debated with them about a diagnosis and about its evidence and about literature out there. It's the thing any doctor would do with another doctor. But I don't have the same initials. My initials are different. It doesn't matter that I made a choice to continue in force protection instead of medicine, but I don't want to sound like I'm a genius, but I'm gifted in pathology, biology, even a little bit of biochemistry. I like these areas. And but I made a different choice. But I can read some of the same magazines they do. And if I have a question, I just look it up and then I learn a little more. But I've always been doing this for like 15 years, reading medical journals. It was because I loved my country. I made a choice in 2004. Do I want to continue in the direction of going in medicine or go in a different direction? Money was tight. I wanted to graduate. I was already going in a particular field, or I could add another year and go honors. And I thought, no. And then I went into anthropology, social science, and international relations, and continued it then into forensic psychology and intelligence studies. and then a heck of a degree in chaplaincy studies, thick in psychology, theology, history, um, very heavy in those areas, Christian Testament, Jewish scriptures, very thick in all of that. And that's just who I am. But, so I have initials too, but they weaponize their dislike for me and, my protection, my advocacy for my own health, they weaponize it. And so they grab a couple of people and they make DVRS complaints, and then they flag me, and just to humiliate me. When you look into my background, you don't find anything there. You look into their background, all kinds of sketchy. And I know because I've been keeping track of the people who victimized me, looking into their backgrounds and all kinds of sketchy, but nobody does anything. And now look at me, look at my health. Because somebody's very clever in using social media to organize against me, word of mouth, mischaracterizing me in common conversation. These are things that we do in intelligence, but these aren't people involved in intelligence or force protection. Some of the people involved in this have spent time in prison. Some of them are predators, sexual predators. Some of them have been in jail for child abuse, drug convictions, assault. And it's like these kind of people are collecting in this part of the state. It's like I don't understand it, but yeah. And lots of criminal hackers, lots. That's how some of these people get new identities. $150, use somebody's identity for 6 months, and then another $150 and take another one before you're found out. That's what they do here. But police don't investigate anything. Because it's the criminals that run the simulators. It's the criminals that run the MC catchers. It's not the cops. Because they know there's a degree of apathy here. At one point I thought it was just lots of illegals. I thought, well, maybe they'll make things right. No, it's deeper than that. A lot deeper than that here. But, and I mean illegals from like all over the world. People I've encountered here sketchy from all over the world. When somebody's got a thick accent and they don't have a local ID card, but they're driving a car, that's their car, you're like, wait a minute here. Anyway, yeah, the targeting now is ignoring everything about and I put my stuff out there, so be it. Maybe I'll help somebody, but somebody, at least I'm putting my story out there. If anything happens to me, my story will be there. If it's not in a simulator somewhere, somebody will be able to watch this and they'll hear what happened. And maybe some people will go to jail. And if it wasn't the state of Michigan, maybe some of them would get the chair, which is what some people deserve. There's no mercy for wicked, unrepentant people, especially from me. And, the latest thing at the VA, this is, I didn't post, but I had another video, but I was uncomfortable with, I mentioned a doctor's name, so I'm just going to mention the clinic. I thought, well, I try not to mention names. If I do, I'll use a first initial or something like that, or a last initial, just because sometimes people take things from a video and they'll take it to extremes, good or bad. So, the latest retaliation from the VAs for looking at my arthritis, nothing's been done about the sugar. Nothing. I keep taking multiple tests a day, and I try to be careful. One thing I know, if I hardly eat anything at all, my sugar is just in the pre-diabetes range. If I eat nothing at all, but then the problem is I get so fatigued and tired and weak. If I eat something, I bounce back and forth between pre-diabetes, diabetes. I just bounce back, forth. And that's with great effort to try to keep my sugar down. Something's going on. And this goes into the lab. Now we'll move in from that. The fact that we don't know what's going to happen. I could go into diabetic shock anytime. If I screw something up. And I don't know much about diabetes. I'm learning myself right now, the past 2 weeks. I just know I check my sugar all the time, which I did in 2014, which now we know after research, even though the VA is trying to shut me down, we know that there's a great deal of chance that I have rheumatoid arthritis, like a lot of other vets that came back, especially when it's in their family, just like me. And when it comes aggressive. Doesn't mean it disables them, but it comes aggressive, and they got to be quick to act, which nobody is with me. They're trying to get labs to do my tests, that labs that are known for suing the FDA, saying the FDA doesn't have the right to tell them what the ranges are in their tests or what the variables should be. I mean, crap like that. This is the lab that they gave me. And of course, my tests are barely conclusive. I said, now, notice I didn't say inconclusive. I said barely conclusive, which means they can barely say anything. They can barely say conclusive no or conclusive yes, because there's something there, but yet because of the ranges, it's not enough to be a positive. And I've been talking about them, Erupt Labs out of Utah. It's an employee-owned company, which is great. A lot of them are people involved in medicine, and the lab, is their investment in their retirement, that's the American way. But the problem is that there's 1%ers in this, this employee-owned company that believe that they are above the patient, and that's the very problem in Western medicine. They believe that they have the arbitrary power to set ranges. When there's other MDs and PhD, I've discussed this in other videos, that disagree with labs like that and say that, even if there is, certain markers show up in the normal, non-ailing population, still, if those ranges were lower, maybe to almost nil presentation of various inflammatory markers, they would still catch at least 11% of the arthritic population who are generally diagnosed as either not having it or weakly presenting. So not to be concerned, just watch your diet. And then they come back into the rheumatologist in 2 years and they're in a wheelchair walking with a cane because those testing ranges. Arthritic diseases are very difficult to diagnose to begin with. Oh yeah, we see some wear or pocketing on the bone. Well, somebody that doesn't know about rheumatology will say, oh yeah, maybe they had an injury or some kind of arthritis. Well, pocketing and pseudocysts are common, especially for rheumatoid. But if you don't know about it, you're just going to assume, oh, it's arthritic. Very different. Even between psoriatic and rheumatoid, very different presentation, very different levels of aggression and damage. But people don't know. It helps with the testing ranges. But Erupt Labs, which the VA used for all of my other inflammatory tests, have shown there's something going on. But the 2 tests from Erupt Labs are completely inconclusive. One of them, there's something there, but it's under the range, of course. And the other one, I don't know anything because they didn't give me the raw data. So all I know is it's less than 1.8. This is the ANA. Less than 1.8. Well, the problem with that is um, some labs consider 1.4 to be a weak positive. They don't. Again, higher marks, higher benchmarks for the ranges. So people who are legitimately ill or presenting weakly, or they may be going into a period of, disease non-activity or even remission, they're going to be treated as there's nothing there. So the VA chose this lab for me. And, discussing with Covenant, I had a neurologist there who things went sour because they always wanted to play games, and they didn't want to sign anything. And actually, one of the girls said, well, we're not going to sign anything for the state about your disability because you could have had this surgery at any time. And I said, well, I had to delay it a couple of times because my car was vandalized on the day we were going into the OR. That happened once or twice. And I had to cancel another time because I was having other health issues. I said, so it's not like I'm just delaying this. But still, she said, fully fit for duty, even though knowing that there's a very good chance I have right ulnar impairment, actually impinge, the nerves being pinched, the right ulnar nerve to a certain degree is being pinched. And my carpal tunnel on my right hand apparently is having complications, even though the surgery was done, and left hand was never done. So all of these factors, and I'm fully fit for duty. So, and also she forged my name. That's another thing that started this ball rolling, because I said, you got people in your office that shouldn't be there. And they wouldn't even talk about the paperwork where they signed my name. I'm like, look at what they filled out, then look at the signature. It's the same freaking ink pen. And you could tell by the bold, circular strokes, long letters, it's a female. Nothing happened, and they got aggressive with me. That was the point. They served me and said I had 30 days to do the surgery, or I would be barred as a patient for the rest of my life. That's that. But yeah, and I sent them a letter too before that, and I terminated the relationship. I said things are broken down. I said you won't discuss my neck. You won't discuss what's going on in my arm. Why is the blood pooling or something, and my arm turning red sometimes? And what about my neck? We still haven't done anything with it. It's a neurologist. What about my neck? Nothing's been done. So they sent a letter in retaliation, repeating everything I said, only nastier, and then like that threat at the end. Either you do it in this 30 days or you'll be banned as a patient for life, in so many words. So anyway, it happened. And now for the medical records, they sat on them for 2 weeks. The VA requested the letters the week of the 19th, and then again the week after. And they sat on it the whole time. It wasn't until a week ago that they sent them to a third-party service that sent me a bill, and they're going to send my medical records through snail mail, dump them in a white or manila envelope, then throw them a postage stamp on them, weigh them, and send them out. Medical records. Crazy. Oh, yeah. And their office is located an hour and a half away. Oh, no, correction. 2.5 hours. Correction. 2.5 hours away from the doctor's office. It's insane. I don't even know who they are. I said, I don't even know who you are. I never signed a HIPAA release. They're like, well, hold for one moment. And then she comes back on the line. She says, well, yep, that's our policy. You got to pay first. I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Well, your physician contracted us. I said, I don't know who you are, though. I didn't contract you or sign anything for you to touch my medical records. Well, if you don't pay us, you're not getting them. Huh. Crazy. Yeah, I can make a HIPAA report for a HIPAA violation, but being as this physician works for a very wealthy, very, I don't know if they're in the billions, but they're certainly in the millions healthcare system, will anything really happen? But that's another way that, they make it impossible for a veteran to get the medical records, making their disability claim even harder. And the thing is, this doctor goes to the VA. I saw him there with his wife. He goes to the VA, and I think one of his PAs works there at that VA. I think. I only met him one time. I think. But, yeah, I couldn't believe he did that. And I think, either him or somebody in his family is a veteran too. But I couldn't believe that they did that to me. That means that they've done it to other vets too. Like the VA with the ARUP labs in Utah. Same thing. Yeah, let's make sure we get it denied. We know we'll use them because their ranges are higher. That's why veterans are sick. I hope somebody watching this, even if you're not a veteran and you're watching this, and your labs they're telling, the provider is being told by a lab, oh no, the levels are too low. There's no inflammatory markers there, or disease is in remission, or it's something else. Just muddying the water. When you're dealing with systemic inflammatory diseases, the water is already like looking at the Mississippi on a bad day. It's already mucky and murky as heck. These are the most difficult diseases. Autoimmune and inflammatory are the most difficult diseases to diagnose, especially lupus, arthritis, lymphomas, leukemia. Very difficult. Some of those, like lupus, leukemia, many people, the only time their disease gets found out is when it's already, they're already beyond stage 1. One of the reasons is because labs like this, they set their ranges too high. And they will sue the FDA about it, say the FDA has no right to regulate or to attempt to regulate and laboratories' proprietary lab methodologies. They don't have any right. Which, last time I checked, the FDA and the NIH, they're the ones who set the standards. They're the ones who approve. So now they're saying, I find a similar thing. I'll draw this correlation. I don't really care what people say. But that's the same thing the Nazis did. Everybody could do whatever they wanted in the camps. The government wasn't involved at all. They let doctors do whatever they wanted. That's why Mengele became famous, because he could do whatever he wanted. Nobody would bother him. And not that the Central, Reichstag or the German Führer, Hitler, would ever intervene anyway, because they're just as much of a monster as he was. But this is an example. I believe in having business is great. Capitalism is beautiful, but you have to have capitalism with compassion and empathy for the community. Otherwise, it's just greed, and that kind of greed makes me sick to my stomach. People who would destroy the community, destroy the environment, and in the end, they have their pile of money. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it when you destroy the planet? You destroy the oceans. You destroy the forest. You destroy the rainforest. You destroy the woodlands. You destroy the mountains. You destroy the glaciers. Destroy the cities. Because all kinds of garbage and filth goes in the cities. And since, people don't want to apparently let the government regulate, let the sewage treatment plants do whatever they want. What you going to do with your money? And that's why I believe that regulation has a purpose. It does. And I'm a libertarian because the problem is, I would love for there to be no regulation. The problem is reality. There's some people involved in business who have no personal ethics. I believe in Ayn Rand, the world of John Galt. Oh, I fully believe it would be a great world when people would stand on their own, carrying others minimally, maybe help them stand up and then have them stand on their own, minimally, and everybody live self-reliantly, independently, ethically. That's the problem. The world of John Galt. Until such time that people place ethics as a very important part of their character, the world of John Galt is not possible. That's why we need government regulation. It's because the frailty, the weakness, and the sin of man. I'm not saying that you give all the power to the government. No, I'm not saying that. Agencies do need to be governed. That's why we have a tripartite government, so there's checks and balances. It's a beautiful system. If it runs, it functions the way it's supposed to, systems will check each other. But hopefully some people with inflammatory diseases, this helps them think, hey, you know what? My labs, I've always wondered, I feel horrible, like the disease is flaring up, but they're telling me it's not. Advocate for yourself. And, I know there's other vets, I've been reading articles, especially there's a veteran that tracks this stuff. He lives in Ann Arbor, and he tracks this stuff, the weaponization of DBRS, and apparently, especially in Michigan, it's common, very common, for VA staff to retaliate. A system that's designed to protect veterans who are at risk, who may be violent or suicidal, or are going through something. This system flags them to protect them. But what's happening is the inverse. It's being used to target them. If a VA employee doesn't like you, especially a provider, they just put in a DBRS. They know everybody. They all have their own friends that go to the committee because the defendant's not invited. Even if you serve them and you demand discovery, I want the videos and the statements that were made against me. They ignore you. This is a system that is not American at all. It's fascist. Like the VA really needs to keep with this ethos of they control all. They're not the Department of Defense. Even the Department of Defense doesn't go that far. They follow the UCMJ. What book does the VA follow? Do they even have one? No, they don't. So herein lies a problem. Just like the patient advocate system, the IG has investigated the patient advocate system and found overwhelmingly nationwide the patient advocates tend to be subservient to and sideline severe complaints to appease administration. This is nationwide. Have they taken action on it? I don't know. That study was 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And they said it's a nationwide problem. They said that the patient advocate system needs to be fixed. Not just the software. I forget the name of the software, but not just the software. Also the system itself, the framework of the way the patient advocates work, because they're overtly political. And administration can hire them and fire them as they wish as well. That's problematic. Most of the hospitals I know that I've been to, it's the same way. The patient advocate is hired and fired by the administrators of the hospital or by the board. It's kind of self-serving. You'd think it'd be appointed by some kind of patient committee or something like that. But that's just two examples of things that happen to people who have inflammatory diseases. Going back to the labs that have artificially high subjective benchmarks for their ranges, and trying to get your records, you may be retaliated against, especially if you're going to leave a physician, or the physician was too slow, or doesn't want to get involved in a court case. Some don't want to get involved. They don't want to take the time away from the office to go to court. They make a lot less going to a court hearing than they do staying in their office all day. A lot less. And also, they may make some enemies. That's another reason why some doctors don't want to get involved. They may make some enemies by testifying against an insurance company or against the VA. They can make enemies, Like the VA is keeping track of doctors who appear as expert witnesses in veterans' disability hearing. I highly doubt it. But us Americans, we are so apt to walk right into, with open arms, conspiracy theories. So apt. We walk right into them and we embrace them. Instead of looking at outside of the internet gossip on social media and using internet academics, verifiable, real sources of information that are found on the web. No, we'd rather look at Facebook or YouTube. But, or Meta, as it's now called, Meta. Which, they all have their purpose, but still, we need objective reality here. We got to stop with the subjective opinion garbage. An opinion is not fact. An opinion is just that. It's based on a feeling or a hunch, And unless we got a bunch of cops out in the world, I think hunches should be taken with a grain of salt. I would trust the hunch of a very seasoned investigator. But then again, if it was a political one, I would step away. But these are some of the way, folks, that if you have an autoimmune or some kind of systemic, inflammatory disease, these are just a couple ways that your recovery or your treatment or your diagnosis can be derailed. And people, that are trying to get disability or VA compensation, you don't get rich on either one. But people that have worked in their life, or even that they didn't, our society, we decided to be civil and have a disability system to carry people who have various issues. And you're going to find there's a significant portion of disability. I'm not saying everybody, but many people have a business and want to. Some people were never given the opportunity. Nobody ever discussed it with them. Nobody ever said, hey, you know what? You're capable. Nobody ever said that. People said, oh, you're on SSI. Go live in a government building. Budget your money. This is your life. Nobody ever went to say the people in that high rise or inside that complex or that group home, hey, you can do something. You can have a business. You can go to school. You can model. You can be a carpenter. You like to cook for your friends inside your group home. You can become a chef. There's opportunity, but nobody addresses that with them. They just assume, make an assumption. Oh yeah, he or she's on disability. Yeah, just don't, talk quietly. Can't stand when people don't think outside the box. But people could still have businesses, even a 100% disabled vet. He could still be employed and do certain things. Yeah, his employability may be greatly reduced, but he can still do some things. I know fully disabled vets that are still contractors, but they can only do certain things. some people it's very, very refined. They can only do a few things without their disability being aggravated or um, with their disability being taken away. I mean, but at a certain point, though, it becomes permanent for veterans. It doesn't with Social Security, and or it does with Social Security, but not with SSI. But there's a point where you become lifetime because enough time has passed that okay, that rating will stay. But 10 years, I believe, that's the 10-year rule, which is half of the time towards retirement. In a particular position, 10 years. That's half of your time to retire. So that's probably why they made it 10 years. But these are a couple of the ways, and people that are sent to providers that that don't want to get involved in a case, like I said, so they'll give arbitrary tests or they'll just not do a good exam. I've had that before. An ENT did a horrible exam, didn't record it, said he didn't have a what is the name of that darn scope? I forget the name of the darn scope they use. Anyway, the scope for the nose and the throat and the ears. He said he had an old-fashioned one. Oh, it doesn't have a video camera on it. Which thinks I'm stupid. They don't make those anymore. They all have cameras. They all have lights. So if it didn't have a camera on there, how was he able to see? He just didn't want to get involved. He didn't want to be helpful. He wanted to say, well, Ann Arbor's wrong. Ann Arbor VA is wrong. It's not this, it's this. I said, they video recorded when they went in there. And I'm sure they still have. He said, well, they're wrong. It's this. I'm like, I watched it on video with the specialist. He showed me the entire video during and after. He's like, well, they're wrong. I'm like, no, you're wrong. Shouldn't have came here. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Well, I'm like, what evidence do you have to provide for me in the VA? I'll write a statement. I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. The VA still had to pay him. You get providers like that. Not helpful at all, but they'll still get their $400 or $500 for the consult, wasting money. Just because they don't want to get involved in a disability case, they don't like you, or they want to feel like they're smarter than the VA. But these are just some of the ways that people with autoimmune will get derailed, or you'll get your disability case will get derailed. You have extra, you hardly have any money, but you got to cough up money for medical records. I mean, when you really think about it, I understand the state law says it's their right to charge you, but then when you think about it, Medicaid aside, okay, so they'll get 50 or 35% on the dollar, 50 or 35 cents on the dollar for you visiting them. Okay, that's given. And then you're there for half an hour, 45 minutes. Okay, but when they use third parties and they withhold your records till you pay them, I don't think I think that's excessive, and it could almost be viewed as retaliatory, Yeah, I need these files for such and such to transfer or to go to court. Well, we need to make some more money. So you're going to pay this and this and this. Then we'll give you your records. I don't know. I understand it's their right, but the thing about giving your records to a third party to govern and control them, and then they send you a letter, almost like a debt collector letter, demanding payment, and it must be done quickly so that the records can be sent in a timely manner. Not cool at all. But I'm not going to say his name. But just choose your doctors carefully. Sometimes, even a neurologist, exciting to meet somebody who knows so much about the nerve system, um, and spinal cords and, just everything about nerves. Like a cardiologist also, hey, we got a doctor who's an expert on the heart. But again, it's about leadership. Even these people can be bad leaders and they can allow you to be used and mistreated. And when another thing about the records, when other people control them, you don't know what you're getting. You don't know if you're going to get enough for your new provider or for your court case because they control it all. That's the problem when you're one of the, 20 states that have not made specific laws about who owns the medical record, whose rights, who has rights over them. Michigan is one of the states that's a gray area. I understand, again, the charging, especially if it's a Medicaid or, what do you call it, like sliding scale clinic. Yeah, they should be compensated for their paper and for their time. But, the whole deal of demanding and using third-party services, how many people are going to touch your medical file, I don't like that. And also when you're going through disability issues, you don't have a lot of money. So, yeah, I don't think that's cool. I think there should be a way around it for people who are filing disability claims. They love workers' comp. Oh, they do all the filing and everything, all the copying, everything, nice and pretty, and all folded and folded into a envelope and nicely adorned stamps and such, and very perfect shading, for people who are suing people like workers' comp and stuff. But for people filing disability, you have a very different treatment. Medi-Mouse, oh yeah, they probably put bows on those manila envelopes when they send them out. Probably put big golden bows. But for others, again, in our culture, too much stepping on the neck of the poor. Too much. People use us, the poor, they step on our neck like we're like we're steps on their stairway. But anyway, went on and on and on. Hopefully some of this will help people think, and advocate for themselves and identify some of the ways that people are derailed. And, again, also telling our story, all the things that have happened to us. And, I'm not looking for sympathy. Sometimes people will criticize me. They'll say, oh, you're looking for sympathy. People, neighbors, because they hear through the wall or something. They'll make a comment like that. No, I don't need sympathy. I've always just said I want people that deal with me to do their job the way they're supposed to be doing it. And, work with me to satisfy me as a client. Because I'm not going to ask them to break the law or go against what their company or their agency or their clinic requires. I'm not that kind of person. Unless, of course, it's abusive, then I'm not going to tolerate it at all. I'm very direct. I'm very no nonsense, and I'll just call it out for what it is. This is abusive. This kind of behavior or this policy mistreats us patients. And that's me. I'm direct. Some people don't like it. The only people that I'm ever rude or mean to is somebody that is a predatory personality. And then I would probably toy with them until I shut them down rudely or I'll shame them. Something like that. Sometimes I'll shame people and they don't even know it until we're long gone. But if people are good and kind to others, and they follow the law, and you know, if they've done things in the past that they've made amends with their victims or tried, and they're not doing that stuff now, I generally don't have a problem with people. You know, I mean, some people that have a shady past, of course, I'll have my eyes on them, but I'm not going to be mean to people or cruel to them unless they deserve it. Oh, you're unchanged? You should have never been let out. Or, oh, you're not even out of high school yet and you're already victimizing people? What are you going to be in 10 years, you know? I don't like people like that. Or people like, hey, I'm the doctor. I'm not going to read that because I don't have to. Does your name have an MD at the end or a DO? Oh, no, it's other initials? Yeah, then you're not the doctor. I don't like people like that either. I'll walk right out of the clinic. Oh, but then somebody will probably make a report, so next time I go back, somebody will probably, a police officer will have to escort me around. Or security will come, something like that. Always retaliating. When a veteran knows their rights, and when a veteran knows medicine, that really makes people uncomfortable. So, yeah, you may be poking at the hornet's nest and you get stung. Like my brother always says, he doesn't want to get involved in anything. Um, I mean, it's also so he can, you know, he's always had a problem with me for a long time, even when we're kids. But, and my mother, she, yeah, if I'm not in her church, I'm not her son. But, yeah, my daughter's mother, she's a completely different person now, too. I don't even know her true feelings about her daughter. I can't tell. Yeah, whoever targeted us the past 8 years, they totally destroyed our family. Made us live in poverty. I had to drop out of grad school because a HUD-VASH social worker, because she pulled a fast one and made me run up debt. I don't use my credit cards. All of my credit cards, when I had them, this was before the identity theft. The identity theft happened like 3 or 4 months after some of these were ran up. But we'll never know because even though I served on my credit cards, nobody would ever sit down with me and gather evidence about the charges. You know, okay, where was this charge done? Because my identity was stolen too. And we come to find out that, you know, the actual, somebody filing taxes happened, like I said, 3 or 4 months after the event with that social worker. But apparently people have been using my identity for like 6 years all over the U.S. You know, these aren't my namesakes. I have several namesakes and I know where they're from, what they've done. Yeah, apparently somebody's using my identity many times the past 8 years, as long as we've been here. All over the place, people are using my identity. Supposedly, even for buying a house in Washington. I've never been to Washington, not D.C., Washington the state. But I've never been to Washington the state, so why would I have a house there? But anyway, so this is what's happened with us, you know, our finances, our health, you know, telling us, hey, you don't like where you live, you don't like that you get bullied and hacked and stuff. Well, you could always be homeless. So our vouchers weaponized too. Police get called for something. They're like, nah, we're not going to investigate this. I'm already telling you now that blah, 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 blah. The reason changes, but it's always the same thing. There's always a stupid excuse. Oh, we don't care that the tow truck in the junkyard refused to file your title because they don't want to pay the fees. So it's still in your name, but the vehicle's crushed. And you cash the check. Well, we don't care. We're probably not going to investigate that. It's title jumping. It's a misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor in the state of Michigan. Punishable by up to 6 months in jail, I think. Or no, 30 days. 30 days in jail, $500 fine. Lower level misdemeanor. But the thing is, it's between two companies. And besides title jumping, they're also, if it's still my car, then they've stolen it from me. Because the car's still in my name. I don't have the title. They refuse to give it to me. So by them doing that, it makes it theft. Oh, you received a check. Okay, I have a check. How do we know that's for the car? Well, because it's a car. Because it says on there it's for buying a junked vehicle. How do I know that's mine? Maybe it was a junk vehicle from my great-grandfather. But they don't want to investigate it. So they leave me with the problem of having a car under my name that I don't know where it is or what it's doing. Other than their word is it's been crushed. Stuff like that, or the watermelon thrown at our door, or the garbage thrown at our door. People targeting us because we're the only white people in the building, or back then we were. I don't know about now, but because some apartments are empty, some people only come once or twice a week, so I don't know now. But not all people are bad of non-Asian, Caucasian background. That's all I'll say. Not all people are bad. I know there's people even in the complex, they're not like that. But somebody is sending people like that to move in here. The same thing they did at the Countryway townhomes. Somebody is sending people there to target us. That's how I got assaulted. Some of those people who assaulted me, them and their family, live in my complex now. They followed us here. They're the ones that tried to get us in trouble with the police, saying we were saying racist stuff. When in actuality, at Countryway townhomes, they were the ones calling me racist names every single day. And one of them assaulted me. He thought he would break me. I'm not going to raise my hand against him. Not when I'm the only white guy on the ground. No, there was one other guy videoing it because he's friends with the guy that hit me. But I'm not going to raise a hand. I was inching toward my porch. Once I'm standing on my porch and they try to physically have an altercation with my daughter and I, at that point, I'm in my castle. Then I could take aggressive, deadly force. State of Michigan, your porch is considered part of your castle. If you don't know that, folks, now you do. There's a court case, several court cases in Michigan, so it was actually written into our Constitution, basically, by the courts. It's an appendage. This includes any roof appendage, like a patio roof or a deck roof, and a porch, and whether it's covered or not, any appendage which branches off of your house is considered part of your castle. And if somebody tries to physically harm you or cross that boundary, then you have the right to take aggressive, deadly force. But just make sure you know where they're going to fall, because otherwise it would look like you were the aggressor. But you have to try to make an attempt to retreat. Obviously, you can't retreat when you're in your porch. Maybe you can open your door, but then again, if your door is locked, you don't have time to unlock your door. So you'll just have to back up against the door, and once they cross that line of cement, then they're in your place, your domain. But at least if you back up against your door with your back to your door, you made an attempt to flee. Anyway, but uh, yeah, a lot of and the people that live around us that always gather information and then they post it either in Facebook Messenger or they'll take videos or they'll hack us through Wondershare or excuse me, or simulate us from the tower. What else did they do? What else did they say? They said they also record us through the wall. Let's see. I've seen people talk to friends, or if people know us, take a screenshot of our kiosk when we're shopping. You know, so they can put out what we bought, how much money we spent, stuff like that. You know, it's anything. You know, and then some people, when I confront them, they will, you know, try to spin rhetoric and try to put something on paper. I know they're trying to make me look mentally unstable, but I know what they're doing. This is just a really horrible, disgusting example of somebody targeting somebody. And, you know, this started with, I don't know who those people were at the embassy, but some of the people at the embassy a long time ago when we were coming home were from Saginaw County. And that's how this started. That's what I think. I don't know them, but they're from Saginaw County. Many of them. And they've destroyed my family. They've done their best to destroy our finances, organize against us, keep us poor, broke. We're really prisoners now because they vandalized my car to death, and we've never gotten justice over that. It was ignored. Yeah. And so I encourage people. I don't know, I'd be very, very careful moving to Saginaw, Michigan. You don't want to end up like us. I know, you know, if people watch this video and they know people from Saginaw, there's all kinds of crap they'll say about me. I'm not going to go on the list, but there's a list of like 7 or 8 things that people would say, oh, he's this, oh, we did this, oh, we heard this, oh, he owes this. I'm not going to go into it. I'm sick of it. Tired of various people organizing against us, even in agencies. It's a small town. They just want to destroy my family and disable or even kill me, you know? People ignoring all these health issues. The more and more I research about rheumatoid, people jump into Google, use the AI. It will grab, if you like to read studies and learn about your issue or what you think your issue may be, there's a lot of stuff there. Google, their AI is a very, very good AI. It will grab a lot of studies and sometimes even summarize them in the top. But the more and more I research, you know, I know what I have. I know without a doubt what I have. Aside from a couple of family members and being deployed, you know, to the Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi area of responsibility, where there's a lot of just dirty air, dirty sand, so much stuff, all the chemicals from burn pits, 600 oil well fires. It's just it's a toxic area, toxic. But I know what I have. It explains. I know I have rheumatoid arthritis. You know, it's not something to be proud of, but it's an answer. It gives you a sense of peace. It's an answer. But people are trying to prove that I'm wrong. Like I said, with the labs, with the ranges, that way they can say, oh no, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Or they can make it muddy enough so another VA clinic says, I don't know, it's doubtful. I don't know, we just don't. I don't know. Especially if, you know, they're not doing all the x-rays. We need more x-rays than just 2 or 3. You were supposed to get all the joints. Well, I can't force them to change the order that they gave. Um, but it gives you a sense of peace when you learn about what very possibly is what you have, and you just look at all of the correlations. It explains this that happened to you, and this, and this, and this. My lumps in 2014, I had a lump, and I went to see a doctor. He's like, oh, it's a swollen lymph node. I'm like, duh, duh. And he's like, yeah, just a swollen lymph node. Maybe you're sick, or you got over being sick or something. And I was like, well, yeah. I said, well, what about we look into these autoimmune, because that's crazy to have a big lump under my arm. He's like, don't worry about it. It'll go away, which it did after about a year. I mean, it's still a larger area down there. So apparently it's, a little bit larger than it used to be, but not swollen. But that's rheumatoid. It happens. Quite common, actually. And then I felt so sick. It's the first time I've been back in the States longer than 2 weeks, because I have allergens here. I have allergens, so my immune system is weaker. So then rheumatoid kicks right in. And then I leave, and within a year, I'm feeling a little better because no allergies. Even in the desert, if there's no sandstorm and I've quit smoking, I don't get sick in the desert. But, when I have these bouts, when I'll get sick and it'll attack something, it explains a lot. It'll attack organ systems. I've had a couple of organ systems attacked before. Anything that it can inflame, through various inflammatory pathways, it will target that. Even the sugar, possible diabetes, it fits. All of it fits. But, I'm putting a lot about me out there, but not everything. But I hope that I can help other veterans out there. This is a very long video. I hope I can encourage people, people, if you're being targeted and somebody just seems like, generally don't believe it's the whole world, because it's not. The whole world is not out to get anybody. But nowadays, especially with social media, if people got a problem with you, or a couple of families have a problem with you, it's easy to organize against people. And in a small town where, probably every 4 people, at least 1 or 2 of those people are going to be Facebook friends with somebody, or directly with each other. Small towns are like that. Even a town of, I think Saginaw County has 80,000 people? And the city has 40,000? Or no, maybe it's 40,000. Anyway, I forget. Yeah, maybe it was the entire city is 40,000. No, I don't know those statistics. I'm probably wrong. But anyway, yeah, in a town with, let's say, 1 or 2 people out of 10 are either connected by 1 or 2 degrees in their social media network, by 1 or 2 degrees. Which means either they know each other, or they know somebody who knows somebody who knows them. Or no, knows somebody who knows them. Yeah, that would be 2nd degree. Through 2nd or 3rd degree, people will know each other in this town. But just be encouraged. There's a place for you. Just try to survive it and maybe leave. You could try to keep your name too. Show that these people are wrong. Live the best life you can. I'm not going to say pray, but praying is good. Find a way to embrace the light in you, to fight evil. It will tire you. I kid you not. Sometimes it will give you flare-ups, But there's some evil people, especially if you speak your mind and you stand for the truth and you do the right thing. People will target you, especially nowadays. It's very confrontational. Even people that may agree with you go to your same religious meeting, believe the same politics as you. This is a very confrontational country. That's our attitude nowadays in the US. Very confrontational. We're very intolerant of each other. That's democracy in crisis. And you're not gonna elect another uh, Barack Obama or another Joe Biden or another Donald Trump to fix it. It's a sickness, and it can only be fixed on an individual level by people's choices. So choose to do the right thing, to treat people fairly, to be kind, to be a righteous and ethical person, to protect yourself, protect others, protect your family especially. Be a producer and try to give back. Live your potential, help others to live their potential, and don't try to, inflict harm on others to gain something. Understand that some relationships are give and take. And even in business is give and take. Both people walk away smiling. There's no predatory behavior in business, stepping on people's necks or, hey, yeah, I fibbed a little bit, but hey, I got my commission. No, don't live like that. And hopefully, people who are targeted like us will find some kind of solace in, knowing that they did the right thing and they pass that on to their children or their grandchildren or their nieces and nephews. It gives you a sense of peace that at the end of the day, even if they take away everything, that the people who know you, they know you love them. And the people who you're close to, they know that whatever happened back that day, that one time at that place that was said or that was done, you forgive them. And that you did your best to live a good life. It gives you a sense of peace, it gives you a sense of calm, because you know that your Father in heaven, he'll say, well done, my good and faithful servant, well done.